What if Batman turned into a werewolf? Let's talk about it as I review Batman Full Moon. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Batman Full Moon. This is a 4-issue miniseries from DC Comics under the Black Label series. This series delves into a supernatural horror featuring Batman facing off against a formidable werewolf threat in Gotham City. This is written by Eisner-nominated writer Rodney Barnes, known for Philadelphia and other various titles, marking his DC Comics debut. Also features the work of celebrated and acclaimed artist Stevan Subic, who you may know best from The Riddler Year One. Also, each of these issues featured a main glow-in-the-dark cover by Subic himself, and of course, a lot of really other cool variant covers. But when I was picking this up, and I picked this up on a monthly basis, uh, I was very excited for the glow-in-the-dark covers, and they did not disappoint. Like on their own, just as a black and white cover, they look great. Subic is a fantastic artist, and we'll get into all that. But yeah, I really love the idea of I'm a sucker for a gimmick, a blind bag, glow in the dark, foil, lenticular, whatever kind of gimmick you're giving me in a cover. I'm a sucker for it. But I was very well rewarded because the inside of this book, the story itself, it's also very good. So we're gonna talk about it. We'll get a little bit into spoilers later on, but overall, the story, like I mentioned, a werewolf has come to Gotham, and Batman has to take on that menace. But what happens when Batman himself falls victim to a werewolf bite? Now he has to confront his own inner demons and possibly becoming the monster that he is hunting. Um, he enlists the help of many of his allies, including Satana and John Constantine, and also a surprising appearance by Dr. Langstrom, who you may know more as Man Bat. This was a really, really cool idea. I reviewed the first issue when it came out originally, but I knew, and I might have mentioned this in my review, this was always going to be better as a complete story. I think that Barnes has a lot to explore, including themes of pain, redemption. There's obviously always the moral complexities of Batman's one rule of no killing, which against a werewolf that poses a problem because you can either capture a werewolf, you can either try to cure a werewolf, or you can destroy a werewolf. There's not a lot of options, especially when now you are also afflicted with that same with that same curse. So wasn't just a big test for Batman physically, but also psychologically, and it really all kind of culminates into a choice of self-sacrifice or having to compromise, your values and your ethics. And I think that Batman really had to turn to those around him for help with this matter. So um, I think overall, I'm a big fan of Subic, and his work is fantastic when it comes to building this haunting atmospheric quality, really effectively capturing elements of horror in this story. I think the use of shadows and texture really contributes to a sense of eeriness, very reminiscent of like the classic horror comics of old, right? Like those old tales or horror stories. I think the gimmick of the glow in the dark really just more thematically resonates with the full moon and the light and everything, like all those visual components. It really just brings out and blends in very well with the supernatural. Um, I've heard that Subic's art is not for everyone, and I definitely understand that. I feel like it can be not only very violent, and definitely there's a lot on those pages, but also can be a little abstract, where maybe there's not as much, there's not full background. He's not setting out to build a world. He's just trying to set out and build an atmosphere, and I think that's what really worked for me, and it really resonated with me. Like there's never a lot going into details, into maybe some of the more refined pieces of a composition, but for me, it really really works. So I'm a big fan of Subic, especially after reading his debut over at with the Riddler Year One storyline. Um, Now the story itself, before I get into spoilers, the story itself, I really enjoyed the idea of having these conflicting feelings. I think Barnes sets out a very interesting dilemma and a quandary for Batman. Like I mentioned, not just a physical test of his endurance and his battle prowess, but also just really exploring like how can Batman compromise? How he wants to help this werewolf. He wants to stop the werewolf. That's the main thing that he needs to do, and he's going to need a lot of help for that. You know, even turning to someone like Dr. Langstrom, who himself has been a villain of Batman in the past. So they definitely have a complicated relationship. There's also the complicated relationship of in this book, Batman is currently dating or at least courting Zatanna, who has a very messy past with John Constantine. So there's also kind of the love triangle dynamic. But what really surprised me was Christian, the werewolf himself. There are some people that try to help him out just in Gotham overall, and just really introducing that other aspect of like people want to help people that are down on their luck, uh, and also sometimes this leads to them being in the way of danger, right? Yeah, I think there's a lot to explore here, for 4 issues. It does feel a little bit rushed towards the end to try to get to the end of the story. I almost wish this had been 5 issues. I feel like it would have breathed a little better. Now these are a little bit longer than normal. These are over 22 pages for sure. I believe they're 32 pages, each of the issues. I don't remember now that I read this digitally now through the app, because I don't want to go hunt down my original issues. But yeah, I think overall this really works. The hardcover is very nice. I need to go chase that down. And I think just introducing really cool characters, or bringing in characters like Zatanna and Constantine and Langstrom, and of course Alfred Pennyworth, who is currently not alive in the main DC universe. It all adds for a very cool book with a lot of fun ideas, and it's just a very entertaining read. I read through this very quickly. Like once I got into it, I couldn't stop. So that's kind of what motivated me to make this video. Even though I don't have my hardcover yet, I wish I had it with me to see what other little details or back matter they've decided to add for it, because I think DC and the team that puts together their collections, specifically the hardcovers, they do a very good job of not just designing the book but also giving you a little bit extra for those that want to do that. So let's go through what happened in the book. So these are now full spoilers. So if you're just here for the story of what happens, we're gonna get into it. We begin episode 1, or issue number 1, with the wolf Christian escaping from Wayne Pharmaceuticals. So it appears that he was at Wayne Pharmaceuticals to get help from this, to cure him from his lycanthropy curse. He kills a lot of people in a very violent manner. He ends up scratching at Batman, which is how Batman gets infected. We dive a little bit into the curse of the werewolf. We see that Dr. Langstrom shows up, and then we also throughout this we see Batman or Bruce talking to Zatanna because they had a date, and he kind of stood her up. And then we also see that Constantine shows up to help. In issue number 2, we go deeper into the curse of the werewolf. We actually kind of flash back to try to understand where it comes from. Batman doesn't believe in the wolf curse though. Like he tries to rationalize this with science. In the meanwhile, this is where we meet a little bit more of Christian, who becomes the wolf, who tries to lock himself up. Right, he tries to stop himself from continuing to give in to this urge. We get a lot of narration from Christian as he's struggling with this curse himself. Zatanna looks for a magic cure, while Langstrom is looking for a science-based cure. But Batman ultimately transforms into a werewolf himself, and now the wolves collide, and that's kind of how we end that first issue. On issue number 3, we get a flashback to Zatanna and John fighting some demons in Louisiana, just to kind of explore a little bit more of their relationship, especially if you're somebody that hasn't read a lot of these characters. We get Batman versus the Christian Wolf, or Christian the Wolf. It's a really cool battle. I think Subic is where Subic's artwork really, really shines. Langstrom transforms into the Man Bat to try to help but there's a lot of chaos. They barely escape. They get Batman back, lock him up, and then the next day, they figure out that Christian is going to Romania, where he was originally cursed. So that's where everyone kind of heads out. And this is the part that felt a little bit more rushed to me. Once in Romania, Christian finally embraces his curse after talking to someone and understanding that the curse is not going to go away. This is not something that he can get rid of. Batman shows up in his werewolf form as well. They fight. Zatanna seeks help, and also, how to get away from this big fight. Ultimately, Zatanna ends up having this thing that kills Christian. So in the aftermath of that, Batman is cured because the person that turned him, like, now the curse is gone, so his curse is also gone, which is an interesting kind of twist on the werewolf mythos. Normally the werewolf just kind of continues, right, until they're dead, and then of course Batman does go back and help the people that originally helped Christian while he was down on his luck. So yeah, this was very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. Like I mentioned, there is now a hardcover collection of the series. It was released on the 13th of May of 2025, whenever you're watching this video. And also, you can probably already check this out out of Hoopla through your library, or maybe even just go check your physical library. Maybe you can borrow the book there. But this was great. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you did as well. So if you have read this book, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.